interesting times. Today's stories. The verdict is underway in the corruption trial of South Korea's ex-president Park. Chinese double amputee to climb Mount Everest after the ban has been revoked. In Cambodia, there are fears of tarantulas may go off the menu. Supporters urge Brazil's Lula to resist arrest. Bill Cosby arrives for the second day of retrial jury selection. China plans to hit U.S. soybeans and planes as trade war looms. Canada bus crash kills 14. Plus, social media stars Callie and twins share their success story. This is Eagle News Canada, bringing you stories from around the globe. I am Lou Aquino. A South Korean court was set to hand down its verdict in the trial of disgraced former President Park Geun-hye, who faces up to 30 years in prison if convicted on multiple charges of bribery and abuse of power. Casey Javier with the details.
Park, the country's first ever women leader, was impeached and arrested in March 2017 over a wide-ranging corruption scandal that exposed shady links between big business and politics and prompted massive street protests. She has since largely boycotted her own high-profile 10-month corruption trial and is not expected to be present in Seoul Central District Court for the verdict and sentencing. But due to intense public interest in the graft case, events from inside the courthouse were broadcasted live on television, a highly unusual move in South Korea. The spectacular fall from grace of a former conservative icon who cast herself in the role of an incorruptible daughter of the nation has captivated South Koreans either side of the political divide. Hundreds of pro-Park supporters were outside the courthouse for the verdict and sentencing. Park faces a total of 18 charges. For her opponents, Park has become a figure of public fury and ridicule. She stands accused of colluding with her secret confidant and longtime friend Choi Soon-sil in taking tens of millions of dollars from conglomerates in return for policy favors. The case reignited public anger over the cozy and often corrupt ties between top officials and the powerful family-run conglomerates called chaebol that dominate the world's 11th largest economy. Choi was tried separately and sentenced to 20 years in prison in February by the same court. Prosecutors are demanding a steeper 30-year jail sentence and a 118.5 billion won or $110 million fine for the 66-year-old Park, saying she must take overall responsibility for the scandal due to her position as president. Park is expected to learn her fate at a detention center near Seoul, where she has been in custody for almost a year. She began her boycott of the trial after being denied bail in October. During that time, she has refused to see any visitors, including her brother and sister, except for her 2 lawyers. If convicted, Park would have the right to appeal at the Seoul High Court, although she would remain in custody during the process. Otherwise, her best hope would lie in a presidential pardon. Yet with her left-leaning successor Moon Jae-in having to come to power largely because of the public backlash against her and her conservative party, analysts say an imminent pardon is unlikely. The daughter of assassinated dictator Park Chung-hee, Park Geun-hye, would become the 3rd former South Korean leader to be convicted on criminal charges after leaving office. Park's presidential predecessor, Lee Myung-bak, is also currently in custody as prosecutors investigate multiple corruption charges involving him and his relatives. Casey Javier, Eagle News, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Casey. A Chinese climber who lost both legs to frostbite on Everest 4 decades ago is hoping to finally reach the summit after Nepal's top court overruled a controversial government ban on blind and double amputee climbers. Kent Soterio reports.
Sia Boy is the first double amputee to be given a permit to climb the world's highest mountain after the ban was revoked. The 69-year-old said the measure, introduced in December to much criticism, was discriminating against the disabled.
当时我听到这个消息以后，我心里特别着急，这样的话我就不能实现我的理想。
But last month, disability advocacy groups successfully overturned the ban in Nepal's highest court, arguing it contravened the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities.
攀登珠峰是我的一个理想，我要去努力的实现它，它也是体现了我一个自我的挑战，向命运挑战。
Sia's bid to summit the 29,029-foot mountain will be his fifth. He was part of a Chinese national team in 1975 when the group encountered bad weather just below the summit. Oxygen-starved and exposed to frigid temperatures, Sia suffered severe frostbite and lost both his feet. In 1996, his legs were amputated just below the knee after he was diagnosed with lymphoma, a form of blood cancer. The tenacious climber returned to Everest in 2014, but an avalanche killed 16 Sherpa guides early in the season, forcing most expeditions to call off their summit bids. Sia was back the following year, but the climbing season was again cut short when a powerful earthquake struck Nepal, killing around 9,000 people, including 22 on Everest. His last attempt was in 2016 when bad weather again forced him to turn back just 200 meters from the summit. Sia's guide Dawa Gyalya Sherpa, who has summited Everest 8 times, is hopeful the plucky Chinese climber will finally make it to the top this time.
त्योसँग उसको डिजेबिलिटीसँग लड्ने खालको क्षमता उ पनि हुनुपर्छ र यो कुराहरु उसँग छ त्यही कारणले आशा गरेछु यसलाई उसको सपना पूरा हुन्छ उसको मात्र हैन मेरो पनि.
The legal wrangling over disabled climbers did scupper ex-soldier Harry Buddha Magar's bid to become the first above-the-knee double amputee to scale Everest.
我登山证，后来我认为他这个规定是对我们残疾人的一种歧视。
The only double amputee to summit Everest is New Zealander Mark Inglis, who achieved the feat in 2006. Hundreds of climbers flock to Everest every year during the brief spring climbing season starting April, when winds and temperatures are more forgiving than other times of the year. Last year, 634 people made it to the top and 7 died trying. Nepali and Chinese authorities who monitored all climbs on the southern and northern faces of the mountain respectively are yet to release the number of climbing permits issued for this year. But the season, which marks the 65th anniversary of the first summit of Everest by Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, is expected to be busy. This is Kent Soterio reporting for Eagle News. I am one with 25.
Thanks, Kent. While a plate piled high with hairy, palm-sized tarantulas is the stuff of nightmares for some, these garlic-fried spiders are a coveted treat in Cambodia, where the only fear is that they may soon vanish due to deforestation and unchecked hunting. Jeanette Duazo with more.
Taking a bite out of a plump arachnids has become a popular photo op for squealing tourists who pass through Skun, the central Cambodian town nicknamed Spiderville for its massive market of creepy crawlers. But the bulk of the clientele are locals who are there to load up on traditional snack known as apping that vendors say is becoming scarce and more expensive as rapid development wipes out jungle habitats. For one, who has been selling the delicacy for 20 years, used to source the spiders from nearby forests, where hunters dug them out of burrows dotting the jungle floor. But those trees have since been razed for cashew nut plantations, forcing Voan and other vendors to rely on middlemen to procure the spiders, which are harvested from faraway forested provinces. That has jacked up the price of the tarantulas to $1 a piece, a nearly tenfold spike over the past decade. For now, the price surge is helping line the pockets of vendors who can unload several hundred spiders a day. But they fear that stocks are running low and will kill their businesses in the long term. Locals say the spiders, whose taste has been compared to crab, are best prepared simply dipped into salt and garlic and then tossed into a pan of sizzling oil. Tarantulas have been part of the Cambodian diet for generations, prized for their purported medicinal qualities. but they are believed to have cemented their place on the Cambodian palette during the brutal years under the Khmer Rouge in the late 1970s. Famine pushed many to forage for any sustenance they could find, eating everything from rats to lizards and tarantulas. While the Khmer Rouge's devastating rule came to an end in 1979, spiders stayed on the menu, but the jungles, which are home to them, are now rapidly disappearing.
Makes me a little bit squeamish because it's not what I would eat at home. But I'm here, so it's time to try them.
Cambodia has one of the fastest deforestation rates in the world, with huge swaths of forest cleared for rubber plantations and timber. It is not just habitat loss, but over-harvesting to meet a high demand that is driving the spiders out of existence, said Tom Gray, Director of Science and Global Development for Wildlife Alliance. The tourist frenzy has helped fuel the tarantula trade, with busloads of travelers stopping in Skun to taste the unusual snack. But for many Cambodians, the only fear factor is that the treat will soon run out. Jeanette Duazo, Eagle News, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Jeanette. Supporters urged Brazil's ex-president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva to resist arrest. Here is Sheena Fortuna with the details.
Ex-President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, a fallen giant of emerging nation politics and still a front-runner in Brazil's October presidential elections, was given 24 hours to surrender to police and start a 12-year prison sentence for corruption by late Friday. However, cheering supporters in the leftist veteran's hometown, São Bernardo do Campo, urged him to resist arrest. The boisterous crowd of about 2,000 Workers' Party faithfully stood outside the Metal Workers Union building in the town near megacity Sao Paulo, with some vowing to shield him from police.
Dia muito triste, mas acho que a gente está aqui resistindo, é o mais importante, demonstrar a força que o Lula tem como liderança e o PT como partido político.
The defiant mood of protesters raised the prospect of a dramatic U-turn in a legal battle apparently dooming the veteran leftist hope of competing in October presidential elections, despite his strong lead in opinion polls.
O povo vai sair para a rua, o povo amanhã vai vir, não vai deixar entrar para tirar ele daqui. Não vai, aqui é a casa dele, ninguém vai tirar ele daqui assim. Não é fácil do jeito que eles querem também, não.
Earlier, Judge Sergio Moro, head of Brazil's huge car wash anti-graft probe, had ordered Lula to present himself voluntarily to police in the southern city of Curitiba. The order gave Lula just 24 hours to turn himself in. It came as a surprise to defense lawyers who'd been expecting Lula to face prison only next week. Moro said that in view of Lula's importance, a special cell was prepared in advance, in which the ex-president will be separated from other prisoners with no risk for his moral or physical integrity. Lula, convicted last year of receiving a seaside apartment as a bribe, had tried to convince the Supreme Court to let him remain at liberty while he pursued lengthy appeals and campaigned for election. In a marathon session, the High Court turned that petition down, leaving Lula all but certain to go behind bars.
Se Lula for preso, na realidade, a classe menos favorecida vai presa também. Vai ter luta. A gente não vai aceitar isso. Chega de impunidade nesse país.
Removal of Lula from the presidential race would open up the field dramatically. Currently, hard-right former army officer Jair Bolsonaro, who openly praises Brazil's 1964 to 1985 dictatorship, is in second place in opinion polls. Brazil's left sees Lula's imminent imprisonment as a plot to prevent the Workers' Party from returning to power. Party leader Gleisi Hoffmann said that Supreme Court's denial of Lula's petition violated constitutional law and presumption of innocence, and made Brazil look like a little banana republic. Operation Car Wash was named after the service station where agents initially investigated a minor money laundering scheme in 2014 before realizing they'd stumble upon a gargantuan web of embezzlement and bribery at state oil company Petrobras and right through the political classes. But Lula, who grew up poor with little formal education before becoming a trade union leader and politician, says he will go down fighting. In theory, when someone has been convicted and lost their lower court appeal, They are barred from running for office under Brazil's clean slate law. Still, even in prison, Lula has the right to register as a candidate. It would then be up to the Superior Electoral Tribunal to rule on whether his candidacy could stand. Although Lula would be almost certainly blocked, he could use the process to maintain his political influence. My name is Sheena Fortuna, reporting for Eagle News, 1/25.
Up next, Bill Cosby arrives for the second day of retrial jury selection. China plans to hit U.S. soybeans and planes as trade war looms. Canada bus crash kills 14. Eagle News Canada will return in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News Canada. The U.S. judge presiding over Bill Cosby's retrial for alleged sexual assault Thursday opening statements for April 9 at the earliest, a week after jury selection is to begin. Serena Matala reports.
The disgraced comedy legend's first trial in Pennsylvania collapsed last June when the jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. The 80-year-old once pioneering African-American comedian and actor is accused of drugging and molesting a former university basketball official at his Philadelphia home in 2004. He says their relations were consensual. Judge Stephen O'Neill set the April 9 date on Thursday while hearing pre-trial arguments from prosecutors and a defense team headed by Tom Mazzaro, the celebrity Los Angeles attorney who got Michael Jackson acquitted of child molestation in 2005. The June 2017 trial irrevocably damaged the once towering icon of U.S. popular culture, loved by millions as America's dad and best known for his seminal role as a father and obstetrician on hit 1984 to 1992 TV series The Cosby Show. Around 60 women have publicly accused the Emmy-winning actor of being a serial sexual predator, but most of the alleged abuse happened too long ago to prosecute, meaning that the trial last year concerned only one of the alleged victims. Cosby, now frail and isolated, risks spending the rest of his life in prison if convicted. O'Neill is allowing testimony from 5 additional women who claim to have been sexually assaulted by Cosby, after last time allowing only one other to take the stand. Canadian citizen Andrea Constance says Cosby gave her pills that left her semi-conscious, then made sexual advances, a story similar to those recounted by many of the other accusers. The actor denies the charges, saying their relations were consensual. Serena Matala, Eagle News, 1/25.
Thank you, Serena. China unveiled plans to hit major U.S. exports worth $50 billion, such as soybeans, cars, and small airplanes with retaliatory tariffs and escalating trade duel between the world's 2 top economies. Katrina Labyrinto with more.
The move came hours after President Donald Trump's administration published its own $50 billion list of Chinese products facing U.S. tariffs over Beijing's alleged theft of intellectual property and technology. The 2 powers have engaged in heated rhetoric and tit-for-tat actions that have raised the prospects of a trade war and rattled global markets.
那么中方的一贯的立场是谈判磋商 解决问题的大门是敞开的。如果美方愿意谈，我们愿意在平等磋商、相互尊重的基础上进行磋商，解决我们的分歧。所以，简单的
Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang told reporters before Beijing announced a tariff plan that the U.S. side should not try to threaten China in a condescending way. He said China and the U.S. should have, quote, give and take instead of threatening the other senselessly.
中方是不愿意打贸易战，因为在贸易战中没有赢家，但是我们也不怕打贸易战。 所以，如果有人坚持要打贸易战，我们奉陪到底。你也刚刚谈。
The Chinese Commerce Ministry unveiled a list of 106 products, including chemical products and frozen beef, that will get hit by duties of 25%, though it did not announce a date for their implementation. A third of U.S. soybean exports go to China, totaling $14 billion last year. And the product comes from rural states that voted for Trump in the 2016 election. The tariffs also target airplanes that weigh no more than 45,000 kilos, smaller than the major commercial jets made by Boeing. The targeted airplanes would include private jets like the Gulfstream 5 and others that have been snapped up by China's elite. Beijing said it will also resort to the World Trade Organization's dispute settlement mechanism. Taken together, the $100 billion worth of targeted goods represent about 17% of the $580 billion in two-way trade last year. Beijing imposed duties on about $3 billion in U.S. exports such as pork, wine, and fruit in response to the U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. The U.S. then followed with its proposed $50 billion list that identifies roughly 1,300 goods that could face duties of 25%. The list includes electronics, aircraft parts, satellites, and medicine, just to name a few. Over the last month, Trump has rattled markets and disregarded warnings from industry groups and members of his own Republican Party in announcing punishing new tariffs on exports from major trading partners. The move toward trade sanctions on China, however, had received mixed reviews, with some support among lawmakers and industry bodies. The U.S.-China Business Council said that it agreed U.S. companies suffered forced technology transfer in China, but warned against tariffs. The general trade tensions had come in the recent days, with investors taking a degree of solace from news that Washington had begun talks to resolve differences with the European Union and China. But in a recent series of tweets this week, Trump has renewed threats to scrap the North American Free Trade Agreement, another trade bugbear the president has denounced as a killer of U.S. jobs. Canadian, Mexican, and U.S. officials are currently in fraught negotiations to overhaul the 24-year-old agreement, but analysts say the odds are slim that a deal can be reached ahead of elections in Mexico and the United States. In a client briefing sent before the release of the list, Mickey Levy, chief U.S. economist for Berenberg, said Trump's trade policy was shifting from chaotic to focused and might result in some successes. But because Trump has focused on bilateral trade and specific industries rather than overarching multilateral agreements, any positive outcome, he said, was likely to be limited. Reporting for Eagle News, I'm Katrina Labyrinto, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Katrina. Hockey Mad Canada was in mourning on Saturday after a bus carrying a junior ice hockey team collided with a semi-trailer truck in Saskatchewan province, killing 14 people. Jay Suarez with more.
An emotional press conference is held in Humboldt, Canada. The hockey mad country is in mourning after a bus carrying a junior ice hockey team collided with a semi-trailer truck in Saskatchewan province, killing 14 people. RCMP said 3 of the injured were in critical condition. The team comprises 24 players, all from Canada, with the youngest age 16 and the oldest 21. The crash happened at about 5 p.m. Friday on Highway 35, about 18 miles north of the town of Tisdale, a trading center in an overwhelmingly agricultural region of the Western Province. The team was heading north for Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League playoff game against the Nipawin Hawks. Police gave no indication of the cause, but early Saturday, special police investigators were still at the scene, roughly 150 kilometers east of Prince Albert City. The flat prairie around the crash site is covered with snow, traces of which can be seen in the plowed roads. Canadian media said the collision occurred near the junction with another highway. The Saskatchewan League is a feeder system for higher levels of hockey, with many graduating to play at U.S. and Canadian colleges and major junior league level, while some go on to professional National Hockey League. Similar leagues operate throughout the country, their buses a regular feature of the vast country's highways. Jay Suarez, Eagle News, 1 with 25.
We will get to know social media stars Callie and Twins as they share with us their success story. That's next. Eagle News Canada will return shortly. This is Eagle News Canada. I'm Lou Aquino. Toronto-based YouTube stars Samantha and Madeline Callion, better known as the Callion twins, open up about their life behind the camera and how they use social media to positively influence their followers, one post at a time. Ashley?
Vibrant, young, and full of wit. Now multiply that by 2. Toronto-based YouTube stars Callion twins are destined to take over the social media world one post at a time. With us today are Samantha and Madeline Callion to share with us how teens or young adults could be a wholesome influence to today's social media health generation.
Naturally, we're really shy people, so I didn't want to do it at first. Like, I was forced to do it.
She was miserable.
If you rewatch it, you can tell how awkward. Like, I can't even watch it again because we're just so awkward. Because we're just shy people naturally, so it was a big step.
Their number one advice to vlog newbies is to not underestimate today's social media audience.
I think it's pretty cliche, but we're just ourselves on camera, and people can see like how genuine we are on camera.
Self-expression, of course, is a huge part of it.
I think we found that like social media and creating content is a great way to express our creativity in like a different way that's not normal, it's not really conventional. So from the creation of the video until the end, I like seeing how we can transform like a small idea into something big at the end.
Samantha and Madeline posted their first video on their YouTube channel in January 2015 and have had a steadily growing following since. With 139,000 Instagram and 2.77 million Musical.ly followers, plus 220,000 subscribers on their main YouTube channel, these young ladies are undeniably huge in the social media world. Before being social media influencers themselves, Samantha and Madeline admired a vlogger who promotes in her videos Filipino values.
So her name is It's Judy's Life on YouTube. So it's also like the Filipino values that she has, but she's really humble. And watching her vlogs, in my mind, I'm thinking like I want to be like her one day. Like despite how many subscribers she has, I think she has almost 2 million. Like she remains so humble. So looking up to someone in the industry, and for me, it's just to be kind in general. I mean, like there's so many internet trolls that like they just leave comments, drama on the internet. They just like leave comments. They feel like a comment won't hurt people. So I feel like just accepting that not everyone's the same as you, but also being kind to other people. Like it really makes a difference. Like just one comment could have a really big impact on someone else.
For more fresh, fun, and friendly ideas, you can catch the Callion twins on
YouTube, Instagram, Musical.ly, Snapchat. It's all Callion twins.
And on Twitter, we're the Callion twins.
With Madeline and Samantha reporting from Toronto, Canada, my name is Ashley Sakmar.
And we are 1 with 25.
Thanks, Ashley. That is this week's Eagle News Canada. Join us next week for stories that matter to you. Visit our website at Eaglenews.PH. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Lou Aquino. I am 1 with 25.